Now, here's Dr. Leslie Armstrong.
Good evening and welcome to Meet the Shrink. I'm Dr. Leslie Armstrong. Today we're going to be speaking with the producer of Bubba the Love Sponge, Brent Hatley. Brent, welcome to Meet the Shrink.
Thank you, Doctor. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad to have you here, Brent. So, why are you in here today? What would you like to talk about?
Well, I've got one main thing that's been bothering me for quite some time now. When we got fired in 2004, in February of 2004, during the government FCC crackdown, I kind of went into a depression, into a funk, and I was drinking a lot, taking pills, and I was really not too pleasant to be around. And what ended up happening is I had problems in my marriage, and my wife ended up cheating on me with a coworker.
How did you find out about that, Brent?
I had a really good friend of mine found out, and he went to her and said, hey, you know, you've got two choices. You can tell him or I can tell him. And so she came and told me once. He asked her to come tell me.
And how was that for you, hearing that news?
Horrible. To be quite honest with you, it really hurt.
How long had you been married at that point?
Probably about a year and a half.
Okay. Had you ever been unfaithful to your wife?
No. The most is the grab-assing around I do in the studio with strippers.
Okay, but you don't consider that cheating?
No, I don't. It's part of the job.
It's part of the job.
It is. It really is. It's part of my job is to grab-ass around.
And she's okay with that? Your wife's okay?
Yes. Before I took the job with Bubba, we weren't married yet, but I had the discussion. I said, you have to understand that this is what it is. And so she agreed to it before I took the job with Bubba.
Okay.
So
how did you get through that? I mean, how were you able to reconcile the fact that your wife had cheated on you and had broken the vows of the marriage? I mean, that's a big betrayal, right?
It is. To be honest with you, Doctor, I have to put 50% on me.
Why?
Because I was just really miserable to be around. I really got down on myself. I had a hard time resolving in my mind how, with the First Amendment in this country, how we could be fined and we could be fired. I mean, we were the #1 show in Florida, and how I could be fired for doing my job. And I love radio probably more than I should. And it really sunk my ship. And I'm sure she didn't feel great, and she was trying her best to pull me out of my funk. And she just couldn't, and I'm sure she just got fed up with me.
Well, that's why we're on satellite now.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I had the same experience, too. I was on Clear Channel. I was on radio, and
that's who fired me.
Yeah.
But, professionally, life couldn't be going better, but this is something that really bothers me from time to time when I think about it. And I love her. I want to stay with her. I think the world of her. I really do. She's really a great person, kind to animals, and got a good heart. And we all make mistakes. And
how is your trust level now? I mean, I would imagine that once you've been betrayed on that level, there must be some sort of leftover residuals of, can I trust her? Will she do it again? How do you deal with that?
It's really hard.
Hard how?
It's hard because I want to trust her again, because I had a really high level of trust. The type of person I am is I don't automatically trust anyone. That trust builds with me.
Okay.
Like over time.
Sure.
The trust builds, and then once that wall's torn down, it's a building process to build it back up. And we've been doing better, but from time, pretty often when I think about it, it really hurts me just to think about.
And what do you do with those feelings? Do you stuff them? Do you share them with her? Do you talk to someone about them? How do you deal with that?
I hold it down and try to think about other things.
Okay. And you know what happens when you take depression, you turn it inward?
No.
It comes out sideways and in certain, explosive ways. I mean, all kinds of, sabotage. I mean, when it comes up, you've got to address it. And you've got to say, hey, listen, we need to talk about this. I'm kind of feeling a little strange here. I need to get my feelings out. You seem somebody that, to me, like somebody's a little bit walled off from your feelings, just from the vibe I'm getting from you.
You're right.
And does that work for you?
I try to compartmentalize all the time.
Why?
Because I just find that coping with life is easier if I can compartmentalize.
But is it?
At times, yes. And at times, to be honest with you, at times I get, and I don't know for what reason, because life is going really well right now. Working for Howard and Bubba is fantastic. But from time to time, I even get flashes of suicidal thoughts.
What do you mean by that?
Like, we all have bad days. And
Yes, true.
From time to time, when I'm having a really bad day, I mean, one of the thoughts that crosses my mind is I don't want to live anymore. And I can't.
When was the last time you had that thought that you just didn't want to live anymore?
Probably a couple of months ago. I mean, things have been so busy lately that I haven't had really time for that. But
so is that how you deal with it? You stay busy, you just keep moving, and that way you don't have to feel?
That's exactly how I deal with life. That's exactly it.
Well, I can tell you now, working in this field for years and years, that is not a good way to deal with it. You've got to stop, and you've got to feel the feelings and know what's going on inside yourself and share that with others and get it out.
Yeah, I have a real hard time doing that.
Because?
I think a lot of it, honestly, has to do with I was at a very young age in the Marine Corps. At a very young age, I went off to combat. I was 19 years old.
So it's sort of be a Marine, tough it up, and, you know.
Stop crying.
Yeah.
And
were you also given that message as a child growing up?
Yes. My dad was a Marine.
Your dad was a Marine?
Yep.
Okay.
And
so it's sort of this, I don't want to hear any BS, just, you know.
Be mentally tough. Go.
Be a man and.
Move forward. Don't cry about anything. Don't worry about it. And you've got to make the best of it every day. And
what was his relationship like with your mother?
Actually, really good.
Yeah.
He really treats her well. All the way to this day.
And how did he treat you?
He was very good to me. He was very good to me. But
what does that mean?
He didn't neglect me. Paid attention to me. Was at my football games, baseball games. Taught me how to do things, but just really was. Was
he demonstrative? Did he show affection?
Absolutely. But he just is a person that's very. Now these days he's very jovial, but in those days he was a stoic person that that he's a very successful man and wanted the best for my brother and I, which we've turned out pretty successful. But he kind of. Led by example in hiding your emotions. And keeping things in and moving on and trying not to let things bother you and move on. But, this issue is really, I can tell you, it really gives me a sick feeling in my stomach from time to time. And I don't know. I really want to heal and move on.
And how do you think you can start that process?
Honestly, I'm not really even sure how to do it.
It has been brought to my attention in the pre-interview that you want to explore some alternative lifestyles with your wife.
Right.
One of them being swinging.
Right.
With other couples.
Yes.
In particular, you want to see your wife have sex with another man, a black man. From what I understand.
Well, it's another man. The race doesn't really matter. I mean, that's kind of the most shocking thing. So that's what comes out on the air the most.
Well, is that what you said, or
I do. I mean, from time to time. But I mean,
so what's that about?
I'm not sure. It's just.
What do you think?
It's a thought I get all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, and
meaning every day.
Yeah.
Have you shared this with her?
Yes, this I have. Yes, I have.
And how open is she to this?
She's not really. After this incident, she's not really open to other guys. She's open to other women, not to other guys.
Okay, but she was open to other guys when she decided that she wanted to cheat on you.
Right.
But she's not open to other guys when you would know about it.
Right.
So how do you explain that?
I don't know.
Have you asked her that question?
Yes. Well, and her answer is, she was having a hard time and she didn't like it when she was cheating on me, which I do believe her. There, she
didn't like it.
She didn't.
But yet she did it anyways.
Right.
Because she's a masochist.
I think from time to time, I think so. I think so. I think she.
Or she just claimed that she didn't like it, or she didn't like it because maybe she felt guilty about it.
I think she does still to this day feel guilty about it. I really do. I think she's pretty hard on herself about it. And
do you think that your desire to see her with another man in a sexual sort of situation is a form of retaliation of the anger that you may still harbor over the fact that she had an affair on you?
I think that's possible.
Possible or probable?
I think it's probable. And I got on the internet and I was reading some things about when you've been cheated on, and I read about retaliation, because the first thought that comes to your mind is retaliation.
Right.
But I was reading a pretty good article on psychology.com that said if you retaliate, you're going to feel worse than your partner feels.
Okay.
And I kind of took that advice to heart. I'm usually one that holds grudges for quite a long time. I really do.
Right.
And I mean, there's grudges that I've held on to for 20 years.
So if your wife were to say to you tonight, "Hey, honey, let's get together. Let's call up a guy. Let's have him come over, and I'm going to make love to him while you watch." Would you do that? Would you be open to doing that?
No, because I want to be having sex with a girl at the same time. That's the other part of that equation that always.
So you want to swap partners?
Right.
You want to do like a couple swapping thing?
Right.
Okay. So let's say that scenario were to play out. She said, "Okay, you can be with this girl. I'll be with this guy. We'll switch and do our thing." Would you be open to that?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I that's something I think about quite often.
Now, there's a difference between fantasy and reality.
Definitely.
Sometimes things look good in theory, but not in actuality.
That's where
not that I'm making any moral judgment or call on swinging. I mean, it's a lifestyle that serves people, and some seem to be perfectly okay with it. But it just seems to be that there's some sort of conflict here with the fact that you feel such betrayal over the fact that she cheated on you, and yet now you want to sort of recreate a scenario where she sleeps with another man.
Yeah, I think.
Or is it that you just want permission to sleep with another woman?
I think it's some of both. And I do have pause because I don't know what that would do to our relationship. That's kind of what's given me pause.
Right.
But I fantasize about it, but then sometimes when things come to fruition, it's not all that you thought it would be.
Do you want to be married?
Absolutely.
You sure?
Absolutely.
And why is it that you want to be married?
I really, honestly, I love and respect her a ton.
Okay.
And she's a great person with a kind heart, kind to animals, and we have a lot of mutual respect and love for each other. I mean, 2004 was just, a total, even before we were married. I mean, we've been together 7 years, and 2004 was just a really horrible, rotten year. I mean,
I understand that, but now we're in 2006.
And I'm still thinking about it.
And you're still thinking about it. You're still holding on to this resentment and this grudge and so forth, and you're having this fantasy. Now, my opinion is if you loved her the way you say you loved her, I don't think you would be so quick to want to lend her out to another man.
That could be true. But
it could be true, or it is true.
No, it could be. And let me tell you the other side of that. Because me not being religious, I don't have the same. I don't like even putting it this way, but I don't have the same morality that other people have.
I mean, this isn't even really a moral issue.
Oh, really?
I mean, it totally isn't.
Because I kind of think of when I think of monogamy and holding on to somebody tightly and controlling them, it almost Islam and Christianity are the first things that pop into my head as to why that's not okay. I mean, it's almost to me, marriage is almost something that's invented by religion.
Well, I think you got a point there too. I mean, I think matrimony is sort of archaic. I mean, it was invented in a time when people, their life expectancy was about 30, right? So if you met somebody at 20, you were married a whopping 10 years. It's not like these marriages now with one person for the rest of your life, 50, 60 years. I mean, is monogamy realistic? Okay, that is a question we could pose, right?
Sure.
Now, if it isn't to you, which is perfectly fine, then my question becomes, why be married?
Because she really truly is my best friend.
Okay.
I mean that
and which you can be best friends and you can be lovers, but
and it seems like to me we're partners in life, and I am certainly willing to forgive people, I have a hard time healing on the inside.
Okay.
That's what I really have a hard time.
So how can I help you to heal?
That's what I'm posing the question.
What are you willing to do?
I'm willing to do just about anything it takes.
Are you willing to get real?
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, break down these walls. I mean, they're really in place.
Yeah.
You know, you're very, very protected. And I want to get to the heart and the soul of who you really are. That's who I want to see.
Okay.
I want to see who Brent really is.
And
what are you feeling right now, Brent? Well,
I've got almost a sick feeling in my stomach just even talking about this.
Okay.
I mean, it hurts that bad.
Okay.
It really does.
Can you show some emotion? Can you let yourself go? Is that okay to do?
You know, it's really hard for me to do, and I mean, I feel it in the pit of my stomach, but it is hard for me to show emotion. It really is.
Because you feel you'll be judged, or it just isn't appropriate according to how you were raised, or...
And I think I've been really overly conditioned to not be emotional. I really have from...
you need to change that, Brent. It's a lonely way to live.
And at times, I really do feel alone.
I can feel your aloneness.
You know,
I mean, it's palpable.
And I don't know how. I really don't have any idea personally how to overcome it.
Well, if you did know, how would you overcome it?
You know, I guess I would try to talk about it. I just don't know what to do. I mean, some of the grudges that I hold inside are over a decade old. And I have a hard time letting go. I have a really hard time letting go.
And, you know, resentment is really, it's something that hurts yourself. I mean, if you think about resentment, it's resending the same old anger and pain over and over again to yourself. It's not hurting others, it's hurting you. And I think that also you're very concerned about image and how others view you. And as long as you're concerned about your image, you will always be a prisoner to that.
Meet the Shrink with Dr. Leslie Armstrong. A little help through your troubled world.
You know, here you are, this Marine guy, you served in the Gulf War, very honorable, you served the country and so forth, and that's all great, but, you know, are you getting lost in the shuffle here? Who's Brent? You know, who's the person behind all the sort of facade and, you know, I mean, you know, all these labels, and I'm the producer of this show, and I'm a Marine, and my dad was a Marine, but who are you? Why are you here? What do you want? What's going to make you happy?
You know what? I'm here because I really want to heal and go back to being happy.
You know, the truth will set you free. I mean, it might make you miserable at first, but eventually it will lead to you being happy. But you got to do the work. What's the most painful memory you have?
The most painful memory I have...
And let's skip over the wife cheating on you 2004 business. Let's go back earlier than that.
The most painful memory I have is... at 4 years old, I had seeing my biological father, who's not my father. He's just seeing my biological father hit my mother.
Okay, were you adopted? Give me a.
The father that raised me adopted me at 5 years old.
Okay,
like
so your mother was married to your biological father,
right? She got
and
divorced.
he was abusive to her.
Absolutely.
And
in front of me.
Witnessed that at age 5.
4. Yep.
Okay. And tell me about that day. What happened?
I was at my grandmother and great grandmother lived together. In Mississippi. And,
okay. Is that where you're from?
That's where I was born. But I'm really from Florida. I've lived most of my life in St. Petersburg.
Okay.
So I was there visiting them, and my mother had come. That was the mother of my biological father and his grandmother, which they adored me as a child. So I would go visit them in the summer, and my mom had come to pick me up, and he showed up there and kicked out her headlight and
Had he been drinking?
Oh, I'm sure. And it took one of my big cousins named Don to show up to stop him.
And what turned him into such a rage? Do you know?
I really don't. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's been married probably 8 times.
Okay.
I've got.
And you say he kicked out her headlight in the car, and then what happened?
And then I, from my best recollection,
okay.
he slapped her.
Okay.
And this big argument, my grandmother at this time was trying to pull me inside, and then,
because you were trying to defend your mom.
Yeah, and my cousin showed up and put a stop to it because he's a pretty big
Were
dude.
you injured in this?
No, I wasn't injured, not physically.
Right.
But I mean, nobody likes to see their mom.
Of course.
Be hit.
Yeah,
so,
it's devastating.
Yes, and
terrifying.
Right. So that's the most painful thing I can remember, ever happening.
And shortly thereafter, she left him, and
she was already separated or divorced from him at that time.
Okay.
And then she met my dad and got remarried, and he was great.
And how old were you when they married?
5. I think I was 5.
Okay. And he took you in just as his own son.
Yeah,
and
legally adopted me and
right.
treated me like his own for the rest of till today.
Okay.
But that memory was very painful.
Do you have any relationship now today with your biological father?
No.
None at all?
Refused to speak to him.
You haven't spoken to him at all since that incident occurred?
Since I was 12 years old was the last time I spoke to him.
And what happened at 12? I mean,
at 12, he was the kind of person that all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, he just wanted to be around and be cool for a couple of days. But after that, after 12 years old, that memory really stuck with me, so I refused to speak to him. In 1998, he was in the VA hospital in 1998, and a cousin called me at home and said, your father's in the hospital, and I very snidely remarked that my father's living in St. Pete, Florida. I don't have a father in the hospital, sorry. I also have a half-sister who he had with another woman who's just what troubles me is she's a brilliant girl, but she's very deeply troubled because he abandoned her. And it breaks my heart to talk to her on the phone because she acts out of resentment towards him as well.
And is he making any attempts even today to try to reconcile a relationship with you, or is he sort of given up and you've both gone your separate ways, or what's happening with that?
I couldn't even tell you where he is or what he's doing,
and you don't care?
I really, really don't.
Okay.
My sister seems to care a lot more than I do. And
she does.
Yeah, and it hurts me that she's in so much pain deep down.
It hurts you.
It really does.
It hurts you that she's in so much pain deep down, but it doesn't hurt you that you're in so much pain deep down.
I'm not in any pain at all over him. He really.
But yet you said that was the most painful situation.
Because my mom was being harmed. But
okay.
I mean, whoever would try to harm my mother, that would be painful.
Brent, however you cut it, I mean, your biological father is your biological father. And, when that doesn't work out, even though you had a wonderful man raise you and you consider him your father, that stuff hurts. That stays with you. Okay?
Even from 4 years old, only
Absolutely.
4 years?
Sure. Absolutely.
Wow.
You're still feeling sort of sick to your stomach?
Very.
And what else is going on?
I'm feeling very sick to my stomach and very, uneasy.
Uneasy?
I'm kind of dealing with things I haven't dealt with in quite some time.
Does it feel like any sort of release to you, or?
It's starting to, but just even dwelling on these memories.
We're not dwelling.
Or
in order to find a solution, we have to identify a problem, right? So we have to identify what the problem is so that we can get to the solution. It's not like we want to rehash and, whine about, how bad your childhood was and you play the victim. We're trying to get it out of you, okay, so we can identify that and thus look toward a solution. You know, the greatest act of violence that one can do against themselves is to do nothing.
Oh, I've never heard that. Because I've always thought, I could move on and...
But you can't.
Not deal with anything.
It's not working. You know, you're sitting here today in this couch with me for a reason. You're literally feeling sick to your stomach.
I am.
This is bothering you so much.
Yes. And
when was the last time you cried?
Last time I cried was when gosh, it's embarrassing. When we were fired.
When you were fired.
When we were fired by Clear Channel in 2004, I really...
Is that because your identity's so wrapped up into what you do for a living?
It really, I think it is.
Yeah.
I think, the times I'm most happy is when I'm working on radio projects.
Right, because you don't have to feel feelings. You could just stay busy and work. I mean, that's why workaholism is such a big phenomenon in this, and then it's rewarded because, you're a high achiever and you make money and everybody thinks it's great, but it's no different than any other addiction. I mean, people can escape through sex, drugs, gambling or work. But I really suggest to you that, you try to find somebody that you can work with and get into some therapy and follow up with this and take some quiet time for yourself. Even if it's just a half an hour a day, and just sit and just be with you and find out who you are.
I think that, I've wanted for a long time. I've heard Howard talk on the air about TM, and I've wanted to learn how to meditate for a long time, but even when I try, I cannot sit and clear the thoughts in my head.
I mean, meditation takes a lot of practice. I mean, monks, will study for years and years and years. I mean, the whole point of meditation is to go nowhere and do nothing, to stop the mind. The committees that are constantly going. And, that does take practice. But you can start somewhere. Even if it's just for 5 minutes a day, light a candle, focus on that flame and just, try to just think of nothing.
I really have a hard time almost stopping for lack of a better term, the broadcast in my head. I have a hard time stopping that and turning it off.
Right.
I mean, my mind is constantly racing about something.
And what's going to happen is one day you're going to turn around and you're going to be 80 years old and you're going to say, where the hell did my life go? Because we're here for, a flash. I mean, it's a vapor. Time goes by quickly. And experience life. Get out there. Join the ranks of the living. How is it for your wife to be with someone who's there, but not really there? I mean, yes, you're a good provider. You seem like a great guy. You're a decent human being. I can see that, and I have a lot of respect for you. But I'm here with you, and I can see your physical presence, but I don't feel the connection. And
I think my wife says almost the same thing to me.
Okay.
She says.
So what's that telling you?
It's telling me that I'm not connecting with her.
And your answer is for her to go sleep with some black guy, right? I don't think that's the answer.
I think you're right. I mean, I feel like because a lot of times she'll sit there and say, I'm getting a weird vibe from you, or I'm getting no vibe from you, or tell me what you're thinking, tell me what's wrong. And I sit there at home sometimes and I'm literally somewhere else. And
are you somewhere else right now, or are you here?
No, I'm here, and
are you really here?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I want you to tell me something really real about yourself right now. Something you've never told anybody in your entire life. Let's lay it out.
Gosh, it's hard to. Well,
get out of here, get out of the head, and get into the heart. Okay? Something real.
I think something that people don't know about me is that I'm very overly sensitive.
Okay.
And
why don't people know that about you?
I think that's because I use my defense mechanism, which is put up a wall.
Okay.
to hide my oversensitivity.
Because?
I would rather build a wall than deal with my oversensitivity and insecurities.
Because it's scary to be vulnerable.
It very much so.
And why is it scary to be vulnerable? If you're vulnerable, what will happen to you?
I don't know. There's an unknown.
What do you think will happen to you? You must have conjured up something. I mean, obviously, vulnerability equals, something negative. And why is that? What do you think could happen?
The thing I'm most afraid of happening is losing the respect of my peers. And
you think people are going to disrespect? I mean, do you think if you were to break down right now and cry and tell us and the audience of all these people out listening who you really were, that they would disrespect you?
Yeah,
because, it takes courage to be vulnerable and soft.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, because it's very hard for me.
So let's see some.
This is incredibly hard. It really is.
Give it a shot. I'm challenging you to be vulnerable with me.
You know what? I want to, but I'm not sure what to do. I've been this way for so long. I'm not even sure what to do. You
mean you're so programmed to have this facade and sort of present to the world this Brent that you've been presenting, that you have lost track of
a lot of emotion
and who you are?
Yes.
I don't even know how you can live like that. Maybe that's why you're contemplating suicide. This is serious business we're talking about.
Sure.
If somebody gets to a point where they're saying, hey, it's just not worth it to live anymore, that is significant. That means something, Brent. That means something.
That thought just crossing your... I for a long time have thought, everybody gets those thoughts from time to time. I guess I must be wrong about that.
I think you're getting them pretty often. And I think you're so damn lonely that it's breaking my heart.
I feel that way.
And I think you deserve to be happy, because I think you're a good person. And I think you need to show the world who you really are and share that with others.
I would really, I'd really like to. I'd really like to get...
So what are you willing to do?
I would like to do whatever it would take.
You keep saying that. I'd like to do whatever it would take, and I'm willing to do anything. Okay, so let's start somewhere. Let's start here. Okay?
What would you suggest that I do?
I would suggest that you get real with me right now.
Okay.
And you be who you really are, and go out on a limb and take a chance and be vulnerable and tell me something that you've never told anybody in your life before that scares the hell out of you, but you're going to do it anyways, because you're going to start right here and right now and right today to do it.
I'm at the point where I don't even know what to tell you. I really don't.
You keep hiding behind this, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know
Okay, so I'm going to say, if you did know what to tell me, what would that be? Because somewhere in there, Brent, you know the truth. It's your truth. I can't give you your truth. I don't know what your truth is. You have to give that to me.
Okay.
Meet the Shrink with Dr. Leslie Armstrong. A little help through your troubled world. Now, back to Dr. Leslie Armstrong and Meet the Shrink on Howard 100.
Let's go back to the day that your wife walks in and tells you that she's had an affair with one of your friends.
Well, not really a friend. Her coworker.
Her coworker. What was that day like for you?
It was horrible.
Okay, describe that day. Describe what you felt. What went through your mind?
Well,
what went through your heart?
Well, I see sometimes when I get really angry and really mad, I almost see red flashes.
Do you black out from anger?
I don't black out, but I get close.
Okay.
I mean,
You go into a rage.
I almost feel like I'm in a trance, and I feel like it's not me.
Okay. Which is a classic sort of rageaholic situation. Okay. And that's from the years of stuffing all these feelings, and then blowing. Okay. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So after you got through that rage period where you saw red flashes and you almost blacked out, then what happened? Did you get into any feelings, or, I mean, it might have been a delayed reaction, maybe the next day, I don't know, moments later, I don't know when. But when did that happen, and what did that feel like?
It happened, that night and the next day. I wanted to discuss how I felt, but I felt guilty because...
You felt guilty.
I felt guilty because she was so upset. And I felt like I couldn't get my feelings out because she was so upset.
So where does this people-pleasing business come from? I mean, your wife cheated on you, and yet you felt guilty because she was so upset that she had to tell you. Now, what in the hell does that mean? I mean, is your self-esteem that low?
Yes, it is.
And why is your self-esteem that low, Brent?
Because I'm pretty unhappy with the way I look.
The way you look?
Yes. Pretty unhappy with the way I look.
What do you mean? I mean, you're a handsome guy. What's the problem?
I don't really see myself that way. I see myself as a pretty scary-looking guy.
Scary looking?
Yeah.
Scary how? What do you mean?
I'd say probably 99% of women don't find me attractive, and that's...
And where did you get that idea from? Did you take some survey and you found out that 99% of all female population finds you unattractive, or is this something that you feel and have projected that onto others?
I think it's something. I think it's both. I think I feel that way because I think it's true, and just about every day, every other day, I deal with adult entertainers.
Right.
Which, I make no judgments about them and what they do at all. I really don't. I could care. I could care less what people do. But honestly, every now and then it would feel good if one of them found me attractive.
Well, how do you know they don't?
I can tell. I can definitely tell that they don't.
You don't think that your process might be distorted because of your low self-image?
It probably is.
I think it definitely is.
Well, I definitely have, as far as the way I look and the way I view myself.
So you're projecting what you're assuming they're thinking onto them, but you don't really know what you're thinking, and you're probably putting out this vibe that that's defensive in its nature because you feel unattractive, and so you're standoffish so they don't approach you, and because you're not putting out that vibe that you think you're hot.
No, I don't.
I mean, like begets like. Attraction begets attraction. It's the energy you put out there is what you get back. Sexuality and sexiness is 50% illusion anyways.
Wow. I don't see how anyone could find me attractive. Like, even when my wife pays me a compliment, I don't believe her.
Okay, so when I paid you a compliment earlier on that I found you a handsome guy, you didn't believe me? You thought I was lying to you?
No, I didn't. I thought you were saying that to be nice.
Therefore, I would have been lying.
Right, but not not in a malicious way.
Yeah, I understand that, but what would be the purpose of that, right? I mean, if you can't say something nice, you don't say something nice at all, right?
But
I can tell you right now, you have a distorted body image, okay? And that's due to your low self-esteem, okay?
Yeah, I definitely...
Is that why you're so quick to volunteer your wife to sleep with other men, that maybe they can satisfy her more than you can? Or is that tied into the same sort of theme of low self-image?
It probably is. And I think that...
Try to make some definitive statements here, Brent. You keep saying probably, I don't know, possibly. Give me some definitive statements.
I definitely have a low self-esteem and a bad self-image.
Okay.
As far as physically goes.
Okay.
I think that the opposite is true of myself. I think too much of myself intellectually.
Okay.
So to the point
what
where
does that mean? You think too much of yourself?
I think I come off sometimes as a know-it-all, and I think that rubs people the wrong way.
Okay. Do you think that might be an overcompensation, that you are trying to compensate and try to act like you know it all because you feel inferior in other areas?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
So maybe you could do less of that, because, see, that's another distancing technique. That's another way to keep people at a distance, to be the know-it-all, right?
Sure. That's definitely...
Another way to keep the walls up, to keep people away from you, from knowing who you really are. Let your beauty shine.
That's my main tactic, is to just try to display how smart I am to keep people... That's exactly what I do.
Okay. And obviously, it's not working.
No,
I mean, it may be working as far as keeping people away, but it's not working as far as leading to your happiness.
Definitely.
Which is our goal here, right?
Sure. I would like to be, my goal is I'd like to heal, I'd like to be happy, I'd like to be better adjusted, and I would like to be able to let go of these grudges that I have deep down inside me. I think that those things would make me the most happy.
And I'll tell you, I mean, I think you've been riding this fence for so long that the iron has entered your soul. And you got to do something to get rid of that. And you've got to start somewhere. And I'm calling upon you to start here right now and give me something of yourself. Give me something of yourself, Brent.
I just, I'm having a hard time even thinking of something.
I understand that, but we're not talking about thinking about something. We're talking about feeling about something. Get inside here, okay? Don't over-intellectualize this. Just put in words what you're feeling. What are you willing to do? Give me a piece of who you are. I'm not asking for much.
What I'm feeling, like I've said before, I'm feeling...
Do you feel comfortable with me?
No, honestly, I don't. I feel very uncomfortable. I feel very intruded upon.
Because?
This is an area where I don't like to let people in.
Okay.
I feel very intruded upon.
Okay.
I get the thoughts a lot of the time.
Is it unsafe for you?
Yes.
Okay. Because you're talking about things you don't normally talk about.
That's right. And
but yet you wanted to come here, right?
Yeah, sure.
And we knew that, this wasn't going to be, about tits and ass. We knew that this was going to be a therapy session.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And you agreed to that.
Yes.
And this is what it is.
Yes.
So apparently there was something in you that wanted to do this.
Sure. Sure, because...
Do you feel that I'm on your side?
Yes, I do. I feel like you honestly want to help.
I really do.
I can tell. I
see a lot of potential in you.
I can tell.
I think you're a good person. And I think you need to share that with the world a little bit more.
And I've gotten to the point where there's about 4 or 5 people I only like that I even want to speak on the phone to. I've become I'll share something with you. I've become very antisocial.
Okay.
Lately.
Okay.
I mean, to the point where I will come up with any excuse to not go to functions, whether it be family functions, whether it be anything from going to dinner with my parents. I come up with a reason to not do it.
And why is that? You just don't want to be around people.
I don't want to be around people. I feel like people are mentally crowding me from time to time, even just talking on the phone.
What do you mean mentally crowding you?
like when I get phone calls that deal with things other than business, I get very, very agitated. You know, I try not to let it show, but people be like, you know, what's the matter with you? And I just get very, very easily agitated talking about things other than business.
What's your relationship like with Bubba?
Great. I mean,
Great?
It's great. It
Okay.
really is.
Why is it great?
Him and I have been through a lot together, and I mean, him and I were on trial for our freedom together.
Yes.
And
I know what that feels like.
And we went all the way to a jury verdict.
Yeah.
So we've really been through a lot together. I mean, Bubba has stuck by me. I've stuck by him. I don't ever want kids, but he's got a little boy that's 3.5 that I love that kid like he's my own. You know, that's one of the great joys of my life is seeing Bubba's kid. That is one thing that really brings me a lot of happiness is being around Tyler. And I have a really good relationship with Bubba. Him and I really have a great understanding of each other as friends and in business. I mean, he's one of the few people that understands me, and I can tell you I'm one of the few people that really gets him. So that things go really well there.
Good.
I think it's at home is where my problems are.
Yes.
I think that's where my problems are.
Well, how about this? Would you make a commitment to me that you will pursue therapy or some form of therapy once you return back home?
Sure.
And make a commitment to finding out who you are, getting in touch with that person, dropping some of these walls, reaching out to others, and stop living so alone.
Yes. I give you my word of honor that I will do that. I will, and I'll get into. There's very, very, very good therapists in our area, and I saw a guy one time and never went back.
And you live where?
In St. Petersburg, Florida.
Okay. I actually have some friends there, and I'll give you my number. And if I can find somebody in that area that I think's good that you could work with, you can call me and I can set you up with them, and you can make an appointment and go in and talk to somebody.
That would be great.
Okay?
That would be great.
I see a lot of potential here. I think you will do fine. I think you have a lot to live for. I think you're a wonderful soul, and it's been a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I really appreciate all your help.
You're welcome.
This has been Meet the Shrink with Dr. Leslie Armstrong.